Hi Katie, it's the 5th of November and the 5th day of NaNoWriMo. So today in English I had my notebook out and you were sat next to me so you knew I was doing it, and I was trying to put together some more plot concepts because, well, basically I've been writing scenes the way I want them to work, just little bits and bobs that I want to happen, and some of my links aren't working because of as I've gone along, the scenes, they've evolved, basically. So the further I get along with the process, the more things need adapting, and then I've come up with some new ideas as well that I'd quite like to include. So yes, plot concepts has been going on, which actually has resulted in the creation of a whole new character. Okay, so sometimes I listen to the Night Vale episodes when I'm working, just to have a voice in the background. It's like listening to the radio. I don't like working in silence. Quite often I don't actually listen to what's being said. I just have a real thing for Cecil's voice. So, just listening to that helps me concentrate much more than it would if I was working in silence. Anyway, so I was listening to The Sandstorm, which is episodes 19A and 19B, and that has given me an idea for something that I'd quite like to happen, because when I was putting together the plot the first time, obviously it's been revised since then, but the first time, one of the big things that I had to take into consideration was the fact that there are so many storylines that happen and, so many incidents that happen in Night Vale. So I couldn't possibly write about all of them from Carlos's point of view, and also if I did that, the fic would have to be constantly ongoing as the Night Vale episodes updated, and I couldn't. NaNoWriMo is only 1 month long, and also I'm not ready to take on a project like that. I've already got several other writing projects on the go that I really need to get on with, but I hate writer's block. Yeah, so they're not getting done, and that's winding me up and stressing me out. And then I've got a load of work to do as well. I'm not going to get any more writing to do tonight because I've still not finished my German. Now I've been given a whole massive project in geography as well. And we've just been given an essay for English, which you know about. Sorry, I'll stop stressing at you in a minute. Oh yeah, and we just had a psychology essay in this morning, like a test out of the blue that I didn't know was coming up. So that's wound me up as well, because I've just realised how much I actually don't know, despite the fact that after almost every lesson I go back and look it over. Anyway, so I'm massively stressed is the long and short of that little paragraph of rage. But, yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the concept, God. I went off on a bit of a tangent, didn't I? You probably haven't listened to this. I'm pretty sure you haven't listened to any of the episodes. But, The Sandstorm is one of my absolute favourites, and it's the only episode so far that's in 2 parts. It's very cleverly done. The first part A begins in Night Vale, obviously as all the episodes do, and runs all the way through until very near the end, where suddenly a portal appears on the wall of Cecil's recording booth. So he goes to investigate, and along the way he finds another office. That he goes through the thing, and he comes out again, and he thinks he's in his own office, except that when he starts to look around, he realises that it's not. And there's a photo of someone on the desk that looks incredibly like him, but it isn't, okay? And there's hoo-ha and everything about that, and it's really interesting. Anyway, and then he goes back, and he accidentally meets his doppelganger, and the doppelgangers have been turning up throughout the whole episode. Like one of the interns had a doppelganger, and they were like trying to kill each other in the office. So we then discover Cecil has a doppelganger, who is hardly mentioned and very quite famous on Tumblr. And in the next episode, 19B, we get it from the other point of view, and we discover that the doppelgangers are basically from Desert Bluffs. When Kevin, who is Cecil's doppelganger in Desert Bluffs, goes through the portal thing, because he does it at the same time as Cecil, it's really cool because in 19A you get a little bit of Kevin talking through the Night Vale speakers, and in 19B you get a little bit of Cecil speaking through the Desert Bluffs speakers, which is really cool. Anyway, Desert Bluffs is a town very near Night Vale. They sometimes have, I think, is it baseball tournaments? They sometimes have baseball tournaments against them. And yeah, they're very competitive and a bit mean, actually. Some of the Desert Bluffs people seem... It's very difficult to tell because everything about Desert Bluffs comes from either Cecil's perspective, and obviously he's very loyal to Night Vale, or from 19B, which comes from Kevin. So that's really cool. And so the only other thing that we get about Desert Bluffs is from Kevin's point of view. And well, there's a very interesting thing in Desert Bluffs. Everything basically is controlled by Strex Corp, okay, who are this big tyrannical company. And Night Vale is a tyranny, but I don't know. There's something about Desert Bluffs that really creeps me out that Night Vale doesn't, despite everything about Night Vale. And one of the things that I think I noticed, I don't know whether it's just me that's noticed this, but I was listening to 19B, and I wasn't listening to what Kevin was saying. I was just listening to the fluctuations in his voice. And it was really odd, because he'd talk for a while, and Kevin is a really cheerful person. And he'd talk for a while, and talk for a little bit longer, and he'd seem really cheerful. But then his tone would start dropping off. And not noticeably so the first time. But I kept noticing it, that every time he just seemed to be dropping off a little bit and seemed to be not quite enjoying the radio as much as he was. He suddenly gets like a boost or something, and when he starts the next sentence he's suddenly happy again, and that really creeps me out. What I was thinking about was in one of the most recent episodes of Night Vale, there's something from Strex Corp turns up, the yellow helicopters, and halfway through one of Cecil's broadcasts, somebody obviously turns up and tells him to stop and rethink what he's saying, because he was doing one of those things where he was a bit worried about Strex Corp and a bit worried about what the implications of their arriving was for Night Vale. Yeah, but then halfway through he sort of stops. And that's not something you get from Cecil very often. He's very smooth and very professional all the time. So that was a little bit surprising. Surprising, is that the word? And unexpected, I think is a better word. And obviously something had made him revise what he was saying. And he started saying, Strex Corp isn't dangerous. We were wrong. We were misinformed. Apologise for that. You're all perfectly safe. Except it didn't sound like he normally did. It sounded a bit forced. And that got me thinking about Strex Corp and 19B, the episode. Sandstorm Part 2, basically. And I was wondering, because Carlos is an outsider in Night Vale, I've been thinking, would he have a doppelganger? And what, if he did, would that be really fun to play with? And what would his doppelganger be like? Because, Cecil's born and lived in Night Vale all his life, as far as we know. I'm assuming that he has, because he just fits there. And, we'll assume that Kevin has as well, because they both seem Kevin obviously Desert Bluffs instead of Night Vale, but, they're both born and grew up in their towns. And, they properly belong there, whereas Carlos is an outsider. So I decided that he would have a doppelganger in the end, but then I decided that his doppelganger would have been born in Desert Bluffs. So his doppelganger actually belonged in the town, whereas in Night Vale, Carlos has only been there for, I think it's about 6-8 months at that point, so he's still seen as an outsider. And, so I thought that would be really fun to play with. And obviously then Strexcorp came into it, and I thought, okay, so Carlos's doppelganger, I called him Manuel, just because I really like the name, and it sort of fits in with Carlos's, I'm assuming, Hispanic origin that I've sort of decided he has. And yeah, so Manuel, as we're going to call him, I've decided that he works for Strexcorp, and I've decided that he manufactures the chemicals that keep Kevin happy and under Strexcorp's control whenever he's on the radio. So, you know, I thought, you know, I really enjoyed like playing around with that. Like, you can tell I've been talking for ages. This is what, like, a massive plot concept. And there's another massive spoiler that I can't tell you about. But because I know I'm spoiling like all the little bits of my own plot. But yeah, I don't mind. I'm really excited actually, because I have a quite extensive character profile for Carlos. And basically, because Manuel's the doppelganger, I've been really having fun playing with that character concept and adjusting it for a similar but different person. So yeah, and Carlos and Manuel have a scene together that, I can't wait to write it. I'm so excited about this scene. But it's also really frustrating because I don't have time. So yeah, I hope you don't mind my little rant. That went on for quite a while, and the interruption as well. Mum's making tea at the minute, and she wanted to know if I wanted waffles or jacket potatoes. As if that's even a choice. Of course I wanted waffles. So yeah. Yeah, if I can think of anything else to say, I'll tag it on in a bit. I'm sorry for the very long video. I probably bored you to tears. DFTBA.